The invitation was meant as a joke. He tossed it onto the breakfast table with a laugh, imagining the expression on her face when she realized she'd been invited to the city's most exclusive gala. She paused mid-pour of his sugar, cast him a curious glance, then shrugged and tucked the envelope into her apron pocket. It was only after she'd left for work that he realized he might have underestimated her spirit. That evening, the gala buzzed with champagne flutes clinking, tuxedos swishing, and laughter that circled the grand ballroom like a sparkling ribbon. Crystal chandeliers cast light across polished marble, while a string quartet played behind a wall of fresh white orchids. He stood at the entrance, a bemused grin frozen on his face, waiting for her inevitable mortified arrival. But when she appeared at the bottom of the sweeping staircase, every expectation shattered. She looked nothing like the girl who dusted shelves and folded linen under the harsh glare of fluorescent bulbs. Her hair was swept into an elegant updo, delicate tendrils framing a face refined by confidence. She wore a pale gold gown that caught the light with every step, the fabric flowing around her like liquid sunlight. Simple pearl earrings and a matching necklace completed the look, lending her an air of effortless grace. A hush fell over the room as gasps rippled through the crowd. He motioned for her to approach, uncertain whether to laugh or apologize, but the moment her heels clicked against marble, he knew he was wrong to have ever doubted her. She leveled her eyes on his, those warm brown eyes that had once watched him sleep as she tidied the guest room, and smiled. It was the kind of smile that lifted his chest with pride and shame all at once. She navigated through clusters of society matrons and business magnates, each one pausing to murmur into the next ear. A few reached out to offer their hands as though she were some celebrated debutante. One guest, an elderly philanthropist known for his discerning eye, stepped forward and bowed. He asked her name. She simply replied, "Maria," with a gentle tilt of her chin. The philanthropist's eyes widened, then softened, and he offered his arm, an invitation to dance. He felt a pang in his chest as she drifted toward the parquet floor, but he held his tongue, unwilling to interrupt whatever magic was unfolding. The orchestra shifted into a waltz, and as the first notes floated upward, Maria accepted the older man's lead. Her posture was regal, her movements unhurried and precise. He watched her, torn between awe and regret, until a gentle tap on his shoulder drew him back. It was his mother, her usual steely composure replaced by an expression of astonished admiration. "Your maid?" she whispered, eyes still fixed on Maria. "She's beautiful." He nodded, swallowing a lump in his throat. He could see the gears turning in her mind. Impressed, perhaps chastened by the realization that she had misjudged the quiet girl who polished silverware in the back kitchen. He found himself drifting closer to the dance floor, drawn by the grace of her movement. Each step she took seemed to command respect, each glance to capture hearts. He was powerless to look away. When the waltz concluded, applause erupted. Maria gave a small, courteous nod, then navigated back toward him, gown swishing like a waking tide. He took her hand, still warm, still real, and guided her to a quieter corner. His words stumbled out. I didn't expect this." She tilted her head, expression warm but unreadable. "You invited me," she said softly. "You didn't specify how." He closed his eyes for a moment, inhaled, then exhaled slowly. "As a joke," he admitted. "I thought—" He broke off, ashamed. Her laughter was gentle, like the tolling of a distant bell. He opened his eyes to find her studying him with compassionate curiosity. "I'm not offended," she said. Surprised, maybe, but not offended. Relief and guilt warred inside him. "You didn't have to come," he murmured. "I'll arrange a carriage home." She shook her head. "I accepted your invitation. I'm here now." He gazed at her, studying every delicate curve of her profile. How many mornings had he seen her bending over the sofa, dust rag in hand, and never once considered the dignity beneath her station? How many nights had she worked in silence so he could live in comfort, unknowing of her dreams or desires? He realized in that moment that he owed her far more than an embarrassed apology. Music swelled again, this time a slow, romantic melody. He offered his hand. She paused, then placed hers in his. Together, they drifted onto the floor. At first, his steps were awkward, but she guided him gently, correcting his posture, whispering encouragement. Her voice was soft, familiar, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest as they found a rhythm together. Around them, the guests murmured with approval. His mother watched with a proud smile. The older philanthropist raised his glass in salute. But none of that mattered. He was discovering new facets of a woman he thought he knew, a woman who carried herself with quiet strength, whose kindness radiated far beyond her humble role. When the waltz ended, the orchestra segued into a light-hearted swing number. Maria laughed, a sound like wind chimes at dawn. He laughed too, thrilled by her joy. They danced until their feet ached, until the last strains of music drifted into silence. Only then did they step back, breathless and flushed. He guided her to a small table where 2 glasses of sparkling elderflower water waited. She sipped delicately, then looked at him. "Thank you," she said, "for inviting me." He shook his head. "Thank you for coming." He paused, searching her face. "I'd like you to stay." She gave him one of those gentle smiles that felt like the first rays of sunrise. "I'd like that." The rest of the evening passed in a delightful blur. They talked and laughed, sharing stories she had never dared to dream he'd hear. He learned about her childhood in a small village, her aspirations to one day own a boutique bakery, her love of painting watercolors in stolen moments of quiet. She learned about his lonely upbringing in a mansion empty of maternal affection, his longing to find genuine companionship beyond the gilded halls he inhabited. When the gala came to a close, he refused to let her leave alone. He summoned his driver and insisted she ride beside him in the back seat. She hesitated, then agreed with a gracious nod. The streets glittered under the lamplight as they passed elegant townhouses and late-night cafes. Finally, they reached the modest row house where Maria lived. He stood expectantly at the carriage door. She slipped out, smoothing her dress. "Good night," she said softly. He watched her disappear into the warm glow of her front door. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a slip of paper. On it was his personal phone number written in his neatest script. He tucked it into her hand as she stepped inside. The next morning, the house felt strangely hollow. He poured coffee for one, stared at the empty seat, then sighed. He should go see her. He should call her. He should make amends for the joke that had led to something extraordinary. He dialed her number, heart pounding as it rang. She answered on the second ring. "Hello?" Her voice was calm, warm. "Maria," he said. "Thank you. For last night. For everything." She paused, then laughed softly. "I had a wonderful time." He grinned, relief surging through him. "Would you like to join me for dinner tomorrow, properly invited?" She hesitated, then said, "I'd like that very much." That evening they dined at a cozy bistro far removed from marble columns and crystal chandeliers. Candles flickered, soft jazz played, and they talked as equals. No employer, no employee. Just 2 people discovering a connection neither had anticipated. When dessert arrived, a delicate lemon tart, he slipped his hand across the table and held hers. She looked up, eyes shining. "I'm glad I came," she said, not as a joke. He squeezed her hand. "Neither am I." Outside, the city lights shimmered like a promise. Inside, they shared a moment that transcended titles, uniforms, and expectations. In that warm bistro, they were simply 2 souls who had found one another when least expected, ready to write the next chapter together.